Whether you've been trying to conceive for 6 months or 6 years, seeing a negative pregnancy test is devastating. When you would do literally anything to have your baby, another month without them is heartbreaking. So, how can you support yourself in that moment? And what happens next? How do you pick yourself up and keep going when all of this feels like such a huge loss? In today's episode, I want to share with you exactly how to get through it. Welcome back to the podcast, and this episode topic today comes from one of my beautiful listeners who sent me an email that said, "Hey Jen, I have just received my latest negative pregnancy test after trying for nearly 2 years. I feel like I should expect bad news by now, but it doesn't get any easier. It takes me so long to get over it each month, and I'm worried that all these negative thoughts are making it less likely that I'll conceive the following month. What can I do to get through this?" I get so emotional reading messages like this because, this isn't a one-off thing. And because it is so relatable and something that I felt so much, I know that it's something that affects so many of us as well. Because that negative pregnancy test, it isn't just about, well, I'm not pregnant that month. It is about your whole life and so much more than that. Immediately we go into this fear spiral, and it's no longer just about the baby, but it's about all our plans for the future. It's about the financial impact of what comes next, all of your relationships that are going to be affected by this, feeling left behind. It all comes up. So today what I want to do is talk to you about some of the more practical and spiritual things that you can do at this time to support yourself in the moment. So in that immediate moment when you take that test, and also in the hours or the days afterwards as well, because it can start to have a bigger impact on your life. And this podcast is all about being able to support yourself and to make this journey feel easier in the process. So that is where I am coming from with this episode today. But before we get into it, I just want to point out that this is not an episode about how to fix it or how to, fix you or to make that moment necessarily feel better, because it isn't going to. It is heartbreaking, and we need to acknowledge that as well. This episode is more about learning to sit with it and offer those tools that can help you feel like this is more manageable and that you are more capable on this journey no matter what happens. Because we're not going to be able to remove the stress and the difficult things that happen along the way, but we can start to change our relationship to what happens next. I think that the biggest thing you need to do before we even get into any of these tools is to really recognize that this is a loss. And I remember I was very unhelpfully told by a therapist once that a baby isn't really considered a baby or a person until 14 weeks gestation or something like that. And any losses that I've had before then shouldn't upset me so much. So, the loss of a first trimester baby or an embryo that didn't take. And that really upset me, as I'm sure you can imagine why. But telling people that, you can just try again next month, or don't worry, it was early, or, you didn't really even see a proper line on that test. I mean, none of these things are helpful. So if you hear anyone saying these things to you, I want you to be able to put it to the side and say that is just their opinion, their thoughts. It doesn't mean that what I've experienced isn't a huge loss. I really, really want you to acknowledge that, because no matter what anyone says, you are entitled to grieve this loss. And especially if you've been through an unsuccessful IVF cycle, if this was an embryo that you put so much time and effort and emotion and money into creating, that is a huge, huge loss as well. So let's talk about the immediate moment when you get that negative test. This is obviously the hardest part, and we can all relate to that horrible feeling of being in that state of fight or flight when you're waiting for that test to develop, or you're waiting for that phone call to tell you if you're pregnant or not. So all of those emotions that are going to come up, I want you to be able to feel them and express them. Let yourself feel it. So cry, scream, punch a pillow, lie down. Try to take as many moments as you need here to let those emotions come out. So we know that pushing them to the side or trying to go around these emotions or rushing into this idea of positive thinking, oh, it'll be different next month, I just need to do this better or try this treatment or do something differently. None of that is going to help you in the moment. We need to be able to acknowledge what is there and let all of those emotions come through you. A grounding practice that I really liked to use for myself and that I give to a lot of my students is to be able to come into a place where you can remind yourself of physical safety. That is the first thing that your nervous system needs. So allow all those emotions out, cry, do whatever you need, but then see if you can take a moment to place a hand on your chest, a hand on your lower belly, or your womb space, and just breathe. Try to slow down that breathing a little bit if you can. And whilst that isn't going to make those emotions go away, it's going to help ground your brain and your nervous system and make your body feel a little bit more safe and a little bit more supported. I want you to keep reminding yourself that your emotions are valid and you don't need to be okay. If it is all possible to have your partner there or a support person there with you when you take that test or when you receive that phone call from the fertility clinic, that is the best way to be able to come into what we call co-regulation. So being able to have that empathic witness, someone who is there to not tell you that everything's okay, but just to hold that space and remind you that you are in that moment okay because they are there. That is a really crucial thing, that if you can manage that, please make that a priority. Another thing that I never thought to do, but a lot of my students tell me, is that they get their fertility clinic to call their partner. So if they know they're going to be at work, they're going to be in between meetings or on client calls or whatever it might be, and they can't take that time to acknowledge the news, preparing themselves for either the worst or the overwhelming excitement, get them to call your partner so that you can then call your partner when you're free, or they can call you at a time when they know it's a better place for you to receive that news. So really acknowledge everything that has come up in that moment. It is incredibly important. Like I said, pushing emotions away or pretending that you're fine is only going to delay that process of them coming out later on. The next thing I want you to acknowledge, and this is perhaps an area where you want to start writing some things down. Journaling, I find, is a really, really powerful regulating tool or emotional support tool that you can use when you are having these huge emotions on these really, really overwhelming days. I want you to remind yourself what this test doesn't say. It doesn't define your worth. It doesn't say anything about you as a person. It doesn't predict your future or what is going to happen next month or next cycle. It doesn't cancel out all of the love and the effort and the intentions behind what you did to get here. And it doesn't mean that you can't still go out and live your life in the meantime. Yes, this is a massive loss, and everything when you're trying to conceive feels so on hold. Another month of being perfect is such an overwhelming thing to get your head around. We think, oh, it's another month where I have to take my 58,000 supplements. I have to eat perfectly. I have to make sure I don't do anything that's too stressful. You know, this emotional toll that the journey of infertility takes on you is massive. So write down all of the things that this test doesn't say. And then I want you to come up with at least 3 or 4 things that you can do either this week or this month that are going to be just for you, that are unrelated to fertility. So for example, what are your most favorite things to do? Like if trying to conceive wasn't even on your radar right now, what are the things that you would be doing? Would you be planning a really awesome weekend getaway with your partner or a friend? Would you be planning a concert that you wanted to attend in a few months? Would you be checking out the latest restaurants and in your city and going to them and ordering anything you wanted? Would it be eating your most favorite home cooked meal and maybe it's full of cream and gluten and I don't know, all these things that we are meant to avoid when we're trying to conceive? But just write down 3 or 4 things that you would absolutely love to do this month or this week even, that are going to be just for you, that have nothing to do with your fertility. Because sometimes doing things that nourish the soul are the absolute best things for our whole body and our overall health. And whether or not they're deemed, fertility perfect or aligned isn't an issue. I want you to do things that feel good just because they feel Good. The next thing that I want you to do is to go a little bit deeper with this journaling practice and find a bit of compassion for yourself in this negativity spiral or this sort of fear spiral that we get into. And here's where we end up sort of projecting into the future, and we get into all of those shameful thoughts around, well, I have to think positively because if I'm going to think negatively, it's going to tell the universe that that's what I want to manifest, and it's just going to mean next month I have a negative test, and you know how it all goes. So common thoughts that I find came up for me and that come up a lot for my students are things like, what did I do wrong? Is this ever going to happen? Why is this journey so unfair? Why is it happening to me and not to XYZ person instead? I want you to write down all of those questions and get really petty, get it all out. All of the things that you are fearful of, that you find really bring you down into this, but what if, but this isn't going to be the next thing that I need to worry about. And can we stop those thoughts in their tracks and just get them all out, write them down, and allow yourself time to feel it all, because these thoughts are coming up for a reason. These emotions are there because, as always, your brain is just trying to protect you. It is trying to keep you safe at all times. Once you have done all of that, so writing down all of your fears and how you feel about all of them, I want you to allow yourself a little bit of space, whether it is within the hour or the day or that week, to just skip the next few things that are on your to-do list. So cancel plans. You can avoid putting on a brave face. I mean, yes, we need to go to work, but are there things that we can scale back? Are there meetings that we can move around? Are there things that you had planned after work that now you can't face going out with friends? I really want to give you permission to just cancel your to-do list and really put yourself first. And I know we talk about that a lot, this idea of having compassion for yourself and prioritizing yourself. Putting up boundaries is something that it's very easily, especially I find for me, very easy to take down again, those boundaries, but put them back up. Know what it is that you need and stick to them. So this negative test can feel like the physical punch, can't it? You feel a physical reaction when you have that negative test and all of the emotions that come up, the panic, the overwhelm, the fight or flight. These can also then push you into what is called a dorsal state, or a state of nervous system shutdown, where your brain goes, do you know what? All of these emotions and everything that is happening right now, this is too much. This is too traumatic to deal with. So in order to protect you from all of this pain, what I'm going to do is make sure you don't have to feel it. And that is where we go into that sense of shutdown. That is where things like apathy, hopelessness, and even depression tend to live. So whether you are in that state of panic or fight or flight, or you've gone into that more, I just want to put my head under a pillow and shut off from the world, both times it is so important to be able to regulate your nervous system. I know I feel like a broken record on this podcast. It's every single episode we come back to this idea of regulation, but I cannot stress how important it is, because it just creates your entire experience, not just for your journey, but your whole life. So we need to understand that your poor brain is just trying to get you out of what it thinks is a life or death situation. And it's actually not too far from the truth, right? Especially when you're talking about the trauma of pregnancy loss and treatments that haven't worked. I mean, your brain isn't far off from here. So we need to do something that nourishes you without this need to be productive, or I'm going to do this because it's going to be the thing that gets me pregnant the next month. I want you to come to it from a place of, well, what can I do now to nourish myself, to make me feel better in this moment? Maybe that is a walk, preferably outdoors if you can, without your phone on. Maybe take a nap. Maybe that's all. Your body just needs rest. You are so exhausted from this constant state of these thoughts spiraling around your brain, and you are just overwhelmed. You just need to have a nap. Do it. Maybe you need to go for a really invigorating run or a boxing class. If that really helps you to get out some of this energy and some of that frustration or that anger, do it. Whatever helps in the moment. And like I said, maybe you can't take a day off work, but maybe you can scale things back, and maybe you can remove things from your schedule in order to give yourself more space. try and avoid the tendency to numb yourself. So whether that is with alcohol, whether that is with certain foods that you tend to eat too much of when you're feeling really down, or even scrolling, just mindless scrolling on the internet, all of these things will steal your dopamine. And it might feel good in the moment, but long term or hours later, you're just going to feel worse than you did if you hadn't done those things. So be really mindful of those tendencies that you might have, and catching yourself when you notice that you're going to them. One spiritual thing that I think is really important for you to do, maybe it's that evening after you've received your negative test, is to do something that really honors your baby. So for me, that was to create a little ritual, maybe light a candle, and there's a really beautiful mindfulness tool that you can do where you just watch the flame and you see how long you can watch that flame for before you notice that different thoughts start to come back into the picture. So lighting a candle to honor your baby, maybe taking a really soothing bath with some essential oils and just soaking in all of that nourishing energy with intention. Maybe it's something like setting up a little altar with some crystals or something that reminds you of your spirit baby, and just taking some time in silence to honor them. And again, let all of the emotions that want to come up without pushing them away. Some deeper journaling work that you can do. I'm going to give you some journaling prompts, which again is something I used to like doing before I went to bed. So I found sort of at the end of the day, I had been through my evening ritual, and I'd kind of started to wind down for the night, and I was in a place of more calm and regulation than I was at other times during the day. So I'm going to give you 3 different journaling prompts that you can go through. And I would recommend that you do them on the day, preferably in the evening before you go to bed. And it's a really lovely way just to give yourself a little bit of closure as to what has happened. So the first one is, what do I need right now in this exact moment to feel just 1% better? So what are these small comforts? Maybe it's taking a book to bed and just having a few moments to get lost in a novel, watching your favorite TV shows, eating your favorite foods, or whatever it might be. Give yourself a little list for tomorrow or the coming week, and give yourself a quiet moment and remind yourself how they will make you feel when you do them. And again, we're wanting these little 1% changes. So they don't have to be huge, massive things. And again, we're not trying to put on a brave face or trying to, put out this false pretense of positivity, but we want these tiny little incremental things that we can do to make ourselves feel better. The second one that I want you to write down is, if my body could speak to me today, what would she say? This really helps to bring in compassion and embodiment in a really gentle somatic way. And somatic is all about coming into connection with your body. So this is a really good way to soften some of those really critical and negative thoughts that come up when you see a negative test. So what would your body say? Maybe she would say, I want this just as much as you do. I am doing everything that I can to bring our baby home. And we forget that our bodies are physiologically designed to become pregnant every month. So if your body isn't becoming pregnant, it's not because your body isn't trying or isn't doing enough. The only reason that we wouldn't become pregnant is because perhaps there's something else that your body is prioritizing, or something just didn't come together. There's like a myriad perfect synchronistic processes that have to come together in order to create a baby. And it's a miracle that any of us are born, really, when you go into the deep science of, how many gazillion sperm have to, get to that one little egg. It is a miracle that it works at all. So I want you to really give your body some compassion for what she is going through as well. And the third prompt that I want you to write down is, what would I tell a really close friend who is going through this? I find that so often we are so much kinder to others than we are ourselves. And this is a prompt that's going to help turn that love that you have for so many other people in your life inwards. So imagine it's your sister or your very best friend, or imagine if you're fast forwarding 20, 30, 40 years into the future. What if this was your own daughter? what would you say to her if she was going through this? And I want you to just write down, really separate yourself from this person for a moment, write down all the things that you would want to say to her, and then read them back to yourself out loud, and just feel how much better it is to hear yourself say something kind rather than the, why hasn't this worked? Why aren't you working better? Why are we still on this journey? It is a really simple but really powerful tool that you can use. So I wanted to keep this episode quite short and sweet because it is a lot to manage when you get that negative test. It really is. So I wanted to give you just a few simple little exercises that you can do to support yourself in this moment. And a few things that I wanted to leave you with. I found this really helpful. Maybe it will for you as well. I like to remind myself that this is such a collective issue that we are seeing globally. So the day that you get your negative test is also the day that so many other women have gotten theirs as well. And for me, that just helped me to know that others were grieving alongside of me. It felt like there was more compassion around me than I realized. And, I think that if you are really struggling and finding this journey really lonely, please reach out in any way that you need. We have such a broad community of ways that we can reach others now, and you can use me as your resourcing tool that day. If you need to, send me an email, send me a message, and just tell me that you're struggling. I will always reply, and maybe that is just something that will give you that little 1% better feeling for that day. So I'm holding hope for you, and even in the days that it feels really, really out of reach. So I invite you to listen to this podcast again next month if you do get that negative test, and just remind yourself of all of the things that you can do to support your body and your mind on that day. And maybe this is something that you can send to a friend or to someone else who is struggling if they get their negative test as well. So thank you so much for being here with me. I hope that you found this episode helpful. As always, I love hearing from you. Please reach out to me. Leave me a quick written review, subscribe or follow the show wherever you are listening or watching this podcast. And if there is any other way that I can support you on your own journey, please let me know. I do have just a reminder, I love getting voice notes. I feel like you're either a voice note person or you're not. But there's a link in the show notes. If you want to send me a voice note, ask a question or just reach out, I would love to hear from you. I listen to all of them, and it makes my day when I get that little notification that someone else has left me a message. So next week on the podcast, we're going to be starting a special 3-part series called Coming Back into Alignment. This 3-part series is designed to help you remember what is the most important part of this journey, and that is you. This is going to be a really big deep dive into helping you know that you're on the right path, how to trust your intuition, and help you keep going when it feels impossible. This is something I have been working on for a while, and it's a really wonderful way to go deep into some of these things that we sort of touch on, but gives us a chance to explore them in a bit more depth. So I can't wait to have you back here next week for that episode. But until then, I am sending you all my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility.